What's up, babes? How we doing? Let me address the elephant in the room. As you can see, this is a change of locations. I have moved. This room is not completely done. Want to add another bookshelf over here. Thinking about which manga I should get. If you have any suggestions, let me know. One Piece obviously isn't even done on the bookshelf either, but a whole nother bookshelf like that on this wall not only look nice, but will afford more manga to be placed on it. The collection's somewhat basic right now. I guess the only things that you can't really see are, and that's not gonna help, is it? Are the Zelda ones down here. Which, if you haven't read the Zelda Twilight Princess manga, I find it to be very good. I want to put up like a gallery wall here with some of the posters that you saw at the old place, and maybe put them up here too. I'm debating. This wall you can't see. I'm also looking to probably do some type of gallery. I need help. I need help because I am not an interior decorator, and this space is gonna have just about all the posters that I own. So in order to do that in a way that looks good, I need to ask for help, which I have asked for help, and we are gonna figure out how to do that. Next, this chapter was solid. I mean, it's kind of tough to say that any of these chapters aren't solid nowadays, especially with all the info that we're getting. But Vegapunk is dropping the facts. And I think this is the first outburst that we see from Emu. Now, it's kind of tough to tell if that's actually him screaming, but I think it's got to be. Yeah, I mean, I like to think that it's got to be, for sure. But still a silhouette, still pissed. Looking at the picture of Vivi's great grandmother. And obviously there's a tie going on there. And my opinions have actually changed. But I'll get to that in a little bit. He's kind of just, mansplaining exactly what's going on. We're getting some solid visuals that definitely make these chapters entertaining regardless. But Karu and Igaram being upset that Vivi is missing, and then the death of Cobra. I really like the Egyptian look of Alabastus. That was cool to see. Vegapunk taking the blame for the Mother Flame, which rhymes. And the Mother Flame looks like it's still in the same spot, which I find interesting. I guess it's more of a important thing that they stop the broadcast than to collect the Mother Flame right now. But like I said, that's something that they're going to want to do and probably guaranteed to do. We have this moment with Stussy that, for me, honestly, it doesn't really hit. I don't really care. I think that we're kind of at a point now where cloning is going to become more of a thing. We're going to see that maybe a bit more, I guess, in a couple instances, but for the most part, who cares? I do like Edison. I guess it's somewhat touching, having just read about Kaku, but at the end of the day, not really. Just taking up pages, to be honest with you. We see those people of the revolutionaries that were just introduced, some captains or whatever they were, talking about Lelouch and what happened, and you see the obliviousness of everybody, which really does, need to know basis for sure. But a lot of the government's going to be wiped out with the rest of the world. A lot of the government, if not all of the government, except the high ups like Kong, Sengoku, and probably Akainu. But they don't even know why that was, and he's dropping it. I love Elisabetto, the fighting king, being check on that shit, make sure he's right. But Vegapunk blames himself, and he's very empathetic, even though he's a genius, which usually those two things don't go hand in hand. But very empathetic. I'm still enjoying his character more and more. Probably best that he's killed off, just because this man's a full nut. All the plays that he's making is kind of insane to see. But some big stuff that he says is that it's used in the ancient weapons to get that done. My very own invention was used to power an ancient weapon. So like I said before, it's confirmed now that the thing in the sky was an ancient weapon, which makes me get to some of the people that we thought were ancient weapons, but that's just not the case. And they do this on purpose. They show a panel of Shirahoshi just kind of chilling there listening, who we assume is Poseidon, but I don't actually think that's the case anymore. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'll tell you my piece. The Void Century is still an enigma, so he doesn't even really know. He just knows there's a war going on, that there was a man-made disaster, and that somebody's pulling the strings. Akainu is covered in smoke, still doing jack diddly shit, staying up there on the fucking McDonald's arches, chilling. Very upset that Vegapunk is spilling the beans. We see Crocus there, and they're talking about how the Roger pirates know the truth, how they know the truth, and how they haven't said anything, which is interesting, but it adds up. It adds up because I don't think they want to cause a panic. I think that they understand that there's a solution, but it's just not something that they're going to be able to enact. And so at that point, they just kind of have to live this life of shit's ending. I know at some point things are going to change, but we are not the change. We are not the change, which is like sad. But I mean, they seem to enjoy it. I think that they enjoyed their adventure so much that it's interesting, but still more to learn about Joy Boy. We actually have some interesting panels of York talking about, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. If the timeline doesn't add up, he must have known the government's plans, which is why he hid the snail, but he didn't have much time. He's like, it's in the Fabrio Stratum, which is the giant robot man. Which is funny, because that's where I think he was putting it right before the Straw Hats got there. This man, like, to the minute, knew where to put the shit. Like, it's kind of insane. It's pretty wild. So we're about to see a 5v1 between all the Gorosei and this robot, or we're really going to see what this robot's about. And we can see a ancient weapon, not a ancient weapon, but a weapon of ancient variety, and see what they're truly about. Now, it could come to pass that this guy actually is an ancient weapon. It could. I mean, it would make sense that this ancient weapon would be able to battle the Gorosei, but at this point, like I told you, there's no point in power scaling them because they're not taking damage and they're not making sense. The end is very good too. I'm sure they knew the entire lost history, all of it. So why didn't they tell anybody? Why didn't they act? Why? And like, we don't know. And that's where Vegapunk ends, and then we see Rayleigh kind of having a moment, and he's drinking, and I think he understands that time is coming. Maybe they know who that person is, but they know it all. They know it all, and at the end of the day, they laughed. They laughed, and I find that really interesting because it sounds like a tremendous tragedy. So I don't know why we're laughing. Like, there's a piece to this puzzle that includes Joy Boy that we just don't understand. I think at the end of the day, Joy Boy had the situation under control, and he just brought it to the future for whatever reason. But many people, I guess, died in order to make that happen. But I think at the end of the day, the joke's going to be on Emu. Whatever's funny, the joke's on that guy. But it's interesting because I don't think they even really know about Emu, really. I mean, they understand the history. They probably know about Vivi, but in terms of who actually rose to power and what that looked like, it's tough to say. Now, my take on the ancient weapons. There's a lot of people, kids especially, with supernatural powers. Shirahoshi is able to control Neptunians and Sea Kings, which is the most insane one of the bunch. But you also have Asa from the Sky Islands, the islands in the sky with Iniru on, can't think of the name of the island. She was able to feel people's soul. So that was kind of Roger's power, the ability to hear voices, and she was able to do that. Somebody else was able to do that, as you guys know, is Momonosuke. Momonosuke is able to not only hear, but to respond to Zunisha. So he's able to take that one step further and do that. Is that something that's passed down through some Sky Island trait? Because if you see the Sky Island trait, there's probably some connection there to an ancient weapon or some ancient type of technology or something sort of. And then the last person on that list is Vivi, who we don't know anything about. We do not see her doing anything spectacular. She could just be what Imu's after because he was in love with Lily and he didn't get his way and Vivi's hot and he's just like, you're mine. But I think she has to have some level of importance. But saying Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon, it just doesn't sound like it in Vegapunk's way. Because let me go back to what he was saying about the ancient weapons and how there's 3 different ancient weapons. And if we know that there's 3 different ancient weapons, and he's saying that Joy Boy made sure that these were passed down through centuries, all 3 of them. He also confirmed that, like I said, the Mother Flame was used as the energy source for the 3rd one. But with all 3 of these things, we knowing that they're going to be passed down, and that the flood was man-made, I think that they're all mechanical. Because we know the Pluton is, and if he's confirming that that thing in the sky was an ancient weapon, we almost have to confirm that that one is also a mechanical thing, which would leave the ocean up to Shirahoshi if she was to be the last ancient weapon, but something doesn't smell right about that. I would compare her ability to do that to Momonosuke's, and nobody really thinks that Momonosuke is a ancient weapon. In fact, it sounds kind of goofy to say that, right? But Zunisha has the destructive power, probably not as much as the Sea Kings, but he's in there. He's in there for sure. He's island level at least, probably a bunch of different islands. I mean, every time we've seen that guy act, it's been bad for whoever's on the receiving end of it. But we haven't seen the Sea Kings act, but acting like Shirahoshi's an ancient weapon, I just don't think is going to be a thing anymore. We have Pluton, that's a ship. We have the floating one that's Uranus. And then the last one is Poseidon. But what does Poseidon look like? Or wait. Uranus is the one we don't know. Because Poseidon would make sense to flood everybody. But for Poseidon to be in the sky, I guess that's kind of goes against what we think. But that's what I think right now. Because if Poseidon's the one doing the flooding, 2 meters arisen from the thing that attacked the sea, Poseidon could be in the sky. I guess it doesn't have to be in the water. So if that's Poseidon, we know Pluton's a ship. What is Uranus? That does leave it open for Vivi. But like I said, I don't think it's people. So what's Uranus? I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out. Uranus is the big iron giant. Probably not. Or we're just going to say that he is for now. I appreciate you guys. Look forward to more videos with prettier backgrounds than you see now. And like, sub, and I will catch you next week. Break week, tough, but we'll talk.